The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw.
Here.
Senator Gorgachia.
Here.
Senator Daly.
Here.
Senator Krasner. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect all members are present and we have a quorum. I want to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones. I am doing that with my own now. As you all know, everything that you see up on the screens, we have in front of us on a laptop. Please don't take it as a sign of disrespect as you see us typing away. Also, I want to remind folk that if you intend to testify, support, opposition, neutral, and/or presenting, if you could please provide your card with your information to our staff. It makes it easier for purposes of minutes. Should you wish to provide your testimony in writing, you can do so by providing that information to our staff, and we'll make sure it gets uploaded so that everybody else can follow along. We are going to open up today with a presentation by Boulder City, and then we will move into their bill. And with that, I'd like to open up the presentation for Boulder City. Good afternoon, welcome. And whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Hardy, Mayor of Boulder City for the record. Presentation of Boulder City. I'm the brand new mayor of about 2 months and grateful to be here, and you're up there. So what makes Boulder City attractive or unique? It's not just the attractions, but we talk about them anyway. Hoover Dam and Lake Mead and museums, historic, wild sheep in the park, the solar fields, the vistas, the events on the 4th of July, the spring jamboree, the fall and the winter, and the bike paths and the schools where we wave to the cars because that we know who's driving them, and safe streets. It's the people. It's the people who care, and the people who share, and the people who serve and volunteer in many different ways: emergency aid, lend a hand, events, veterans home, the cemetery, the veterans cemetery, youth coaching, the senior center, pro bono, wills being done by attorneys, breaking the cycle to help people with mental health and drug issues, the senior all-night party. We have police volunteers, and wait for it, we even have horses volunteer for the police mounted patrol. So that's what we do in Boulder City. We volunteer and we help, and with your permission, I'll let my city manager take over and make the official presentation. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and committee members. For the record, I'm Taylor Tedder, City Manager of Boulder City. Today, I'd like to take this time to share with you a little bit more about our community. My goal is to educate you on our community, why it's unique, and an integral part of Nevada. Boulder City is historically significant to the development of our state. The Boulder Canyon Project Act, authorizing construction of Hoover Dam, was signed by President Coolidge in 1928, just as the Great Depression was beginning. Construction was set to start in 1931, and 5,000 families came to work on the project. Boulder City was built to house the workers. The Bureau of Reclamation held title to all the land, and the federal government essentially owned Boulder City at the time. Construction was completed in 1936, almost 2 years ahead of schedule, and in 1958, the federal government transferred ownership of Boulder City's government. Our city was incorporated in January of 1960, and at the time, the city covered approximately 33 square miles, about 1/6 of its size today. Boulder City is unique compared to the rest of Nevada. Various charter amendments keep the city much like it was in the early days. Since incorporation, gambling has been prohibited, so Boulder City is one of only 2 jurisdictions in Nevada that prohibit gambling, meaning that we don't receive any gaming revenue in Boulder City. Voters also adopted a ballot initiative in 1979 for growth control, which has kept our growth limited, even negative at times, in the past 40 years. While Boulder City acquired 167 square miles, of former federal land in 1995, our voters in 1997 restricted how city land can be sold, so it has to go to the voters if we want to sell over an acre of land. So while we have the largest square mileage of land in Nevada, most of it does remain undeveloped as open space. Boulder City also has a limit on city debt obligation, making us a pay-as-you-go community, and our city code requires voter approval on any debt over $1 million. So last year, voters elected longtime Boulder City resident Dr. Joe Hardy as mayor, and many of you know him from his days as a state of Nevada assemblyman and senator. And although the role of mayor is nonpartisan, I have heard that Dr. Hardy was well respected and willing to work across all sides of the aisle. We're very fortunate to have someone with his expertise and character leading our city. Our city council also includes Mayor Pro Tem Sherry Jorgensen, whose background is in education, Councilwoman Koki Booth, her background's in real estate, Councilman Matt Fox, he's a local restaurant owner, and Councilman Steve Walton, who is a retired fire captain. Our appointed officials include myself, City Clerk Tammy McKay, Brittany Lee Walker's our city attorney, who's spent quite a bit of time here in Carson City over the past decade, and our recently elected president of the Nevada Judges of Limited Jurisdiction Association, the Honorable Victor Miller, our municipal judge. Boulder City established a strategic plan in 2018, and we're incredibly close to achieving the 5 goals: achieve prudent financial stewardship, invest in infrastructure, manage growth and development, promote historic preservation, and sustain a high level of public safety services. Some examples of the strategies within those include diversifying revenue for a greater use of grants, developing a historic preservation plan and mission statement, and supporting nonprofit volunteer groups. City staff plans to seek direction from the City Council to determine steps for a new plan this spring, as we're about 98% complete. Here's a look at our general fund revenue sources. Intergovernmental revenue accounts for more than 1/3 of our revenue, and most of that comes from the consolidated tax, or C-tax. Rents and royalties is another large third piece of our revenue, which is mostly from our land leases from solar development. Financial year 23 revenue is estimated at about $42.7 million, and we have a total budget of about $134 million across all funds, including of our enterprise funds. Unlike our neighbors, Boulder City has only 10 departments that employ 355 employees. Most of our buildings were given to the city in 1960 and are still in use today. While historic in value, we do have a number of challenges with our facilities. We have accessibility issues in some buildings, such as City Hall, seen here on this slide. It was built in 1931. And our police department has walls of poured concrete, which came from the same concrete that was used to build the dam. So it's very difficult to renovate the facilities. And because of our limited staffing, our staff does do multiple jobs. For example, our utility billing supervisor is also our director of business licensing. Our staffing does include 8 collective bargaining units, which were all up for renewal last year. And we're home to 17 parks, 1 swimming pool, and 2 city-owned golf courses. Boulder City employs 37 sworn officers and more than a dozen support staff. We have our own 911 dispatch center that handles all the calls for police and fire response. And we should note that the police department has sustained critical staffing levels thanks to our strong recruiting and retention efforts at a time when other agencies are struggling to recruit. The city also maintains a low crime rate, and it's a recognition that we celebrate year after year. We also have our own fire department and EMS services, and they responded to over 2,600 calls for service last fiscal year. We have had a almost 26% increase in calls for service over the prior financial year 2021, and a 21.5% increase in EMS calls from financial year 21 to FY22. We did recently launch a business community AED CPR program, so we were able to utilize some ARPA funding to place AEDs in a lot of our local businesses across our downtown so that we have coverage where it's needed. And we also have plans in the works to build a small substation in order to serve about 35% of our community over on the lake side that's outside our nationally accepted standard for response time. So we're really excited to improve those response times. A little bit about our schools. We have 4 schools in Boulder City, and diversity is at an all-time high in Boulder City schools. Nearly a quarter of the students identify their race as something other than white, and nearly 27% of our children fall below the federal guidelines that would qualify them to receive free and reduced cost meals, which this year is actually available district-wide through the community eligibility provision. While our city holds that small, old-fashioned charm, it's also important to note that our residents also skew older. Census data gives a really good look at our population. We have 15,000 residents compared to Clark County's 2.2 million. And our median age of Boulder City residents is 52.7 years old compared to Clark County's at 37.5. 29% of our residents are over 65, and just about a half of our adults are in the workforce. It is important to note that nearly 11% of our residents have been in the armed forces. And why are these numbers important? With more than a third of our residents living on fixed incomes, we have several agencies that provide support. Agencies like Emergency Aid of Boulder City, Lend a Hand, and the Senior Center of Boulder City. We provided all of them ARPA funding due to an increase in need over the past 3 years, and they've been able to assist with utility bills and rent assistance. And as mentioned before, our fire department did see more calls for service in the last year because of health conditions. For many years, the City Council has approved the transfer of Boulder City's bond volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority, which has been able to support affordable housing projects across the state. Last year, the City Council did approve the transfer of our bond volume cap to the Volunteers of America, which was for the purpose of conversion of an existing assisted living facility into a new affordable senior housing apartment complex. The developer is also in the process of developing affordable senior living facilities in Boulder City with a proposed total of over 180 units, and they'll be pursuing federal low-income housing tax credits to aid in the funding. While the city does have the controlled growth ordinance limiting the number of residential units that can be built in a year to 120, the same ordinance provides a bonus of 50 units for affordable housing projects every 5 years. And to talk a little bit about people experiencing homelessness, Boulder City has a representative on the Continuum of Care Board that promotes a county-wide commitment to homeless services, including securing federal dollars for local homeless service providers. We also provide annual funding along with the other jurisdictions for annual homeless census, the Homeless Management Information System, software system that collects information on services provided to homeless, and emergency shelter funding. Our staff and local volunteers also participate in the annual census count organized by Clark County Social Services. And we provide individuals with a homeless services resource guide listing of all of the services in Clark County, and also work with Emergency Aid of Boulder City to secure housing for those individuals. And often we're asked by local business owners or other people, what can we do about it? And we're here to help. So we try to focus on solving the issue by providing information and trying to help rather than arrests or things of that nature. The city also has an additional duty grants manager assigned from within our finance department. They're responsible for the centralized administration, submission, and reporting of all grants within the city. All the grant requests are solicited by various departments and then coordinated through the grant manager, evaluated by a grants working group in the process for submission so that we have a coordinated effort. The grants manager is certified in federal grants management procedures and has access to all applicable grant management websites and accounts. Boulder City, unlike most of the state, provides its residents with all utilities, including electricity, except for natural gas. The majority of our power does come from the Hoover Dam, and Boulder City retains its own water rights, which are subject to specific fees handled by SNWA. And while the city provides land leases for solar power, nearly all of it is sent to power Las Vegas and California. The City Council in 2019 formed a utility advisory committee whose members advise the council on the operations of our utilities. Boulder City owns and operates its own electrical distribution system, providing our residents with electricity, and we're unlike our investor-owned utility neighbors in that we're not for profit, and the electrical distribution system is subject to the jurisdiction of the Boulder City Council rather than the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada. The city currently does not own or operate any generation resources and obtains all of its energy needs from existing power purchase agreements and the open energy market. The city is a leader in clean energy, getting most of our power from hydropower and solar. We do offer rebates for energy efficient appliances and other energy efficient items such as smart thermostats in homes. We employ 12 people in our electric division, and when the power goes out, even at night, on holidays or weekends, our crews are the ones that respond. And for the months of December 22 through February of 23, our winter energy demands are just over 29,000 megawatt hours, and about 53% of that power is exclusively served by the federal hydropower from Hoover Dam, Glen Canyon Dam. So that's great to have our clean energy. About 36% was served exclusively by solar power and battery storage from a power purchase agreement we have with Townsite Solar. And then 11% was served by market energy purchases. Our anticipated summer energy demands do go up about twice as much as the winter to about 58,000 megawatts. And 37% of that is from hydropower, 19% from solar power and battery storage, and then 44% from the open energy market as people have their AC running. The city of Boulder City is very lucky that we've diversified our revenue sources with utility scale solar projects and lease revenue in the El Dorado Valley. And this has helped the city survive difficult times like the Great Recession, COVID-19 pandemic. The first utility scale solar project to benefit the utility directly is the Townsite Solar Project, which delivers 5 megawatts of firm power by solar and battery storage through most of the year, except for our off-peak times in March, April, and November. The city is currently exploring additional power purchase agreements in the future due to dwindling capacity of Hoover Dam with the ongoing drought. And to talk a little bit about our response to the drought. Boulder City was one of the first cities in Southern Nevada to adopt the Southern Nevada Water Authority's latest water conservation measures, and we're currently in talks with SNWA to return our wastewater back to Lake Mead. The city is currently in the process of converting up to 2 million square feet of turf in our golf courses and parks to water smart landscape. And the city did recently authorize rebates for smart irrigation controllers with rain sensors, so we can save water when it does rain. And we're fully committed to the new 4 acre-feet per irrigated acre water budget for all golf courses, since we do have the 2 public courses and there is 1 private course in Boulder City. We are a destination offering activities that are very unique for visitors to Southern Nevada, including the Railroad Museum, the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead National Recreation Area, trails, parks, and outdoor activities accounting for more than 8 million visitors annually that pass through the community. A very exciting project that is coming to fruition, the Nevada State Railroad Museum will be expanding, and it will remain located at 601 Yucca Street in Boulder City, and it's a $35 million investment. The first phase of the expansion project will construct a new visitor center at the corner of Boulder City Parkway and Buchanan Boulevard. The second phase of the expansion project will be the development of a linear park that runs the length of the museum campus along the lower level, adjacent to the new access road that we put in. This park will incorporate the museum's current live stream interpretive railroad and add an outdoor amphitheater, a railroad-themed children's playground, leisure areas, and additional restroom facilities that we're really excited about. Another project that we're also excited for is the Adventure Hub. It's an adventure center that the U.S. Department of Commerce awarded a grant. It's a $2.2 million capital investment, and this will be co-located with our Chamber of Commerce at 100 Nevada Way overlooking the lake. The proposed layout of the Boulder City Adventure Center will allow tourism companies to develop operations at this centralized hub so that visitors can schedule various activities and experiences in one location. The grant will also enable the National Park Express to operate inexpensive transportation from Las Vegas resorts to the Adventure Center. One of the coolest perks to living in Boulder City is seeing daily visits from the Nevada state animal, the bighorn sheep. With the help of Clark County Commissioner Jim Gibson, the county gave the city a $175,000 grant for improvements to the Hemingway Valley Park to benefit visitors, two-legged and four-legged alike. Improvements include a walking trail, benches, educational signage, irrigation, and watering holes. I hope this presentation helps you understand the people and population of Boulder City, as well as the challenges facing our community. With that, the mayor and I are here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
And thank you both for the presentation. Members, just so you know, I don't think I've had an opportunity to discuss it with everyone. The intent is for us to have presentations from any jurisdiction to be attached to the same day that we're having a bill hearing for efficiency purposes. I know sometimes we'll have a bunch of hearings on presentations, better said, we'll have a bunch of presentations, and then a couple of weeks down the road have the actual bill, and we forgot everything we heard. The other thing I'm asking from the local jurisdictions is for us to understand what's happening with affordable housing. What are we doing to attract federal dollars? And just working with our homeless population so that we have a better understanding. I think this is a session where a lot of that we're hoping to be able to address one way or another, which is why those slides were included. With that, I'll make an ask rather than a question, both going back to affordable housing and our homeless populations and federal grants. And I know we're not the money committee, but I think it'd be great for us to understand. I realize that you mentioned during the presentation that they're applying for federal grants and we're trying to utilize that. How many have been awarded in the last several years? What specifically, what parameters do they have, right? You have to use X, Y, Z. Were they matching grants? Just so we have a better understanding of what those are. And then data on your homeless populations. I know that you mentioned working with the census data and participating on the counts. But specifically, how many folk have you identified, wraparound services that you're providing for them? I understand that your jurisdiction, unlike others, are probably very different. But just so we can see that in numbers, I think that'd be very helpful if you could send it to all the members, please. And with that, members, we'll open it up to questions. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores, and thank you to the mayor and the city manager. My question, Boulder City's always been known, at least in my mind, for very limited controlled growth. Do you think that's going to continue, or do you think that growth in housing and business industrial will outpace what we've seen in the last few decades in terms of controlled growth, limited growth?
For the record, Taylor Tedder, through Chairman Flores, Senator Orenshaw, thank you. So it's really interesting. I've looked back through the last decade on our housing permits, and so we do have that 120 homes per year controlled growth ordinance. However, we have not hit that. Really, it averages out to about 38 a year. 1 year we did come close, but it has not approached that 120 number. The interesting thing, we just have a limited amount of privately owned land, so the city has to take a question to the voters whether we sell a plot of land for development. So right now, we do have a plot of land, Tract 350, that the developer is looking at building homes, that was selected through an RFP process, but it hasn't come to fruition yet with the market uncertainty. So they are looking to come back to the city in the spring to discuss that. There is a new neighborhood in Boulder City that was just completed. It was about 115 homes built by Storybook. So we do have a good constant flow of some homes, but I don't see the data showing that we'll be exploding anytime soon, especially with our growth control.
Thank you very much, City Manager Tedder. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation and welcome back, as I mentioned.
Thank you.
And we look forward to working alongside of all of you as session moves forward. Please, whatever we can help with, please let us know. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out the presentation for Boulder City. And next, we'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 23. Whenever you're ready. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Government Affairs Committee. I'm here to present Brittany Walker, City Attorney for Boulder City, for the record, here to present Senate Bill 23. We have worked on a amendment to the bill that helps clarify the intent and address any concerns that existed with the language. So the mock-up was emailed to you, and that's the version we'll be going off of. So in general, like many jurisdictions, Boulder City has a redevelopment agency. We established our redevelopment agency and redevelopment area in 1999. This specified an area and plan to redevelop our blighted properties, and it included vacant land of city-owned land west and south of Boulder City Parkway. Prior to the 2017 legislative session, redevelopment agencies were permitted to amend redevelopment plans to add or remove properties from a redevelopment area. However, in 2017, NRS 279 was amended to add a prohibition on removing land from a redevelopment area so that just to ensure that NRS 279 would be followed for commercial development using redevelopment funds. However, this limits the redevelopment agencies from removing residential property, and for new residential property that's not blighted, like we have in Boulder City, that property tax revenue is really more appropriate for traditional property tax purposes like public safety and schools. And so SB 23 would amend NRS 279 to allow a redevelopment agency to remove land from a redevelopment area in one limited circumstance, and that's if the use of the land is primarily residential and the city council makes a finding that that revenue is better suited for traditional property tax purposes. As Taylor mentioned, we have a new development, Storybook Homes, which is about 115 homes. This is in the redevelopment area, and the property tax has been contributing to our redevelopment fund. And we believe as a city that that revenue would be better suited for our public safety services that provide service to those homes and for our schools that educate children in those homes. So with that, I will open it up for any questions.
And thank you for the presentation. Members, any questions? Senator Daly, please.
And not necessarily a question, just a little history back on some of that stuff. So you're right, AB 80 in 2017, brought by the city of Reno, went through a lot of amendments and various things, and one of them was to put in a prohibition from redevelopment agencies removing property from the area. A couple of reasons for that: could affect the bonds, but partially to make sure that they weren't pulling areas out, sending it back over to the city, and which then the city could sell at less than fair market value and do a bunch of other things the redevelopment agency couldn't, and we saw those problems. So that's what I was trying to fix. So with this amendment, and I worked with you guys on this, you have to make 3 findings, which is, I think, on the page 3 of the mock-up. So it can't interfere with any bonds. It has to be for that primarily, and I went back and forth on primarily, so hopefully there's not going to be any abuses of that. Primarily residential, and then the single-family dwellings, there was some flexibility, and that's where we put in the, or multifamily less than 3 stories to try to give you guys the opportunity to do that. And then the last thing, I think, you have to make a finding that, like you just stated, it has to, you think that instead of money going into the tax increment for the redevelopment area, if you're already funded, it's not going to affect bonds, that the new development and the housing would then just be in the regular tax rolls and various things. So you're removing it completely from the redevelopment area, reducing the size, and then no longer having any increment build up on that. So I don't think that there'll be some of the abuses that we saw while we originally put that in there. It is very narrow. And most of the other redevelopment areas that I've seen, they're not trying to do a lot of residential construction anyway. So you guys removing it completely to get it on the tax roll, I don't think goes against the principle that I was trying to fix back in 2017. So good luck, and hopefully you'll hit that 120 one of these days.
And I don't think we have any other questions from the committee. I wanted to make sure. Seeing none, thank you again for the presentation. If I could just have you sit back. And at this point, I'd like to invite forward, either in Carson City or Las Vegas, anybody wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 23. Seeing none, BPS, if we could please go to the phones. Anybody wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 23?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 23, either in Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, BPS, anybody on the phone?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. And last, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in the neutral position to Senate Bill 23. Anybody in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, anybody on the phone?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, any closing remarks you may have on Senate Bill 23? You don't have to have any if you have them. That typically only happens when folk come up and testify in opposition, and then you want to counter that point. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 23. Thank you again for the presentation. And last on the agenda, we have public comment. Anybody wishing to join us for public comment? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, do we have anybody over the phone, VPS?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, before we adjourn the meeting, I want to give everybody a lay of the land for the week. We'll have some hearings on Wednesday, but it is, again, our intent to not have a meeting on Friday. I say that mostly for those of you all who have families and are trying to coordinate your day and make it work with your kids or the million other things you have going on outside this building. So the intent is for us to meet on Wednesday, but we will not be meeting on Friday, so you can plan accordingly. And with that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, members.